I feel like I need to talk real quick, that Randy's got us on a pretty tight schedule. Let me just say, I want to talk a little bit about the work that we can do together, but I also want to make some points of recognition. I want to recognize Randy for the great work she does on the Executive Council of the AFL-CIO and the great work she does as my partner in the Public Policy and Legislative Committee. And I really want to thank Erin for the great work that she did, helping not only to save an aluminum plant, but helping to save a community in the North Country. And without her, I don't think it would have happened. Our union is a lot like the AFT. Our name doesn't just represent any longer just who we are. The AFT represents teachers, teaching assistants, secretaries, bus drivers, custodians, food service workers, early childhood educators, and people all through the healthcare profession. The Steelworkers Union represents steel workers, aluminum workers, coal miners, rubber workers, glass workers, paper workers, and healthcare workers. I think we're the fourth or fifth largest healthcare union because we represent workers in regions where our union is strong. But I've had two daughters who both had an early learning disability. And I want to say this because I've never had a chance to say it to this many teachers. Usually when I had 2 or 3 teachers around me, I was on my way to the principal's office. Teachers, teaching assistants, people in the education field, nurses, nursing assistants, people in the healthcare field are professionals. They deserve to be treated as professionals. They deserve the dignity of professionals. They deserve the recognition of professionals. They deserve the pay of professionals, and they deserve the pensions of professionals. I do want to say that I saw an article that had Randy Weingarten's picture at the corner of Broadway. And it said, if you want to know what's wrong with education, call Randy. Let me tell you what's wrong with education. You got people like Dan Loeb, people like Singer, who want to use our pension funds, want to use the teachers' pension funds, go in and close communities, go in and destroy the tax base, go in and then say that they can't afford to pay teachers, end up with places closing. If what would have happened in Messina, those teachers would have lost their jobs, those workers would have lost their jobs, and some rich hedge fund son of and you know what, would have walked away with money in his or her pocket. I want Dan Loeb to know that we stand with Randy. No one should end up stealing workers' pensions and then privatizing schools and doing the kind of attack they do on teachers. Teachers are professionals. Hedge fund guys are scammers. As I said, I had 2 daughters with early learning disabilities. They grew out of it. But one of the things I got to know as a father, far too often, we ask teachers to do too much with too little and not enough support. In my world, the only persons that spent more time with my 2 daughters than my wife and I were the teachers who took care of them. And that happens very too often that they don't get the recognition they deserve. I remember being in Pittsburgh and seeing some teachers on the eastern side of the state when we had a Republican governor who cut the money to schools. I saw teachers going into stores to buy the school equipment for the kids because the damn school system didn't have the money to do it because the plants had been closed and the governor didn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. That must be the folks from Pennsylvania. You know the governor I'm talking about. You got it, Pontiac. Now, the places that we can work together are many. Again, my own personal pet peeve from being a father and seeing my kids and them going through the school system. More than half of the schools in America on average, are more than 42 years old. That means if they're more than 42 years old on average, we've got lots that are 50, 60, and 70 years old. It's time that we took on a campaign together to retrofit our public schools to the highest level of scientific knowledge so that the schools our kids are going to have clean air and clean water and have air conditioning, and the teachers can teach in a humane environment. And those things that are going to rebuild those schools ought to be made in America, not made in China, not made in Bangladesh. And I have nothing against those workers. I have everything against the system that's exploiting the both of us. I heard Randy make the comment about, in the early days, we helped AFT. We sent organizers to help organize. We're attached at the hip. Most people don't realize it. When a workplace closes, an industrial factory closes, you don't only lose the jobs, you lose the tax base from the factory, and you lose the tax base from the workers who had a wage. And when you lose that revenue, we all know who they attack first. They don't attack the bosses that are moving to China. They don't attack the hedge fund manager who used our pension funds to close the plant so he could move it to China. What they do is they attack the public employees, and most of the time they attack the teachers because they think you're an easy target. It's time that we tell those hedge fund managers, it's time that we tell those school administrators that the most important thing that my kid does is they go to a public school and go to get a good education in a good environment with good air quality, good water, and good teachers. Now, I know that there's a time limit, but I want to say this. Much to my knowledge, surprise of my knowledge, I learned how many communities in America since Flint, how many communities in America have lead in their water than higher than the national allowable limit. I know from speaking with Mike Langford from the utility workers that we lose almost 3 billion gallons of water every day from leaky water pipes. I know from the research that I've read about those communities that have lead in their water, that when you're teaching in the school, no one came and told you there's excessive lead in the water that not only the kids are drinking, but the teachers are drinking. We need to have a national program of assessing the amount of carcinogens, and in particular lead, that are in the water in our communities, and then we need a program whether it takes 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years to rebuild that water infrastructure so that our kids are drinking clean water and our teachers are drinking clean water and they're working in a clean environment. So I wanted to bring greetings of solidarity and tell you that I'm looking forward to working, as are our members, as are our executive board, with teachers in communities so that we can work together to retrofit our schools, to rebuild our infrastructure, to make sure that our kids are having good drinking water. I want to make sure that we work with the healthcare professionals. And in fact, I want to say with some pride that AFT and the steelworkers just recently worked together to, and I'm looking for my note, we worked together to work with the DOL, Healthcare Unions petitioned DOL to issue the rules on comprehensive workplace violence to protect all workers in healthcare and social services. The level of income inequality is not an accident. For close to 40 years, America and other advanced so-called democracies have been on a drive to drive down wages. We all know that the top 1% received almost 60% of all the wealth created in our society since 2008. One of the results of that level of inequality is people are frustrated, don't feel like their voices are being heard, And when they go into healthcare facilities, far too often, they react violently. The level of healthcare violence incidents since 2008 has gone up 110%. I never thought as a kid growing up that if you went to a hospital or a clinic or a nursing home, I never dreamt that the workers in that home, the workers in that hospital, the workers in that clinic were in as dangerous a job as someone that went down in the mine. You may not get killed, or you may, but the level of violence has to be challenged. And again, it's about how you allocate the wealth that we create. And right now we're living in a system where the economic structure is broken and disabled. And I can tell you this, I don't need a billionaire in the White House to tell me that I'm getting screwed by another billionaire. I want to compliment you. I managed to be sitting in the green room in the back listening to the debate about endorsing Hillary. We endorsed Hillary already. We have a different process, but we endorsed Hillary. And I can tell you this on a personal level. I asked Erin if she had worked with her when she was senator. To me, this is really quite personal now. When Hillary was a senator in New York and the steelworkers were under attack, whether it was in a steel mill in Buffalo, whether it was in a factory in Syracuse, when we went to Hillary and asked her to do something to help us, she never once said no. She did say a couple of times, I can't do it, and this is why. And quite frankly, she had a really good response to why she couldn't do it. We, in fact, agreed with her then. I am really pissed. I guess you can say that if you're an adult in school. I am really pissed at watching the level of fundamental dishonesty in the attacks that they have on this woman. She is by far the most qualified person for president that we've had in my lifetime. And sisters and brothers, hang on a minute, I'm running out of time. I want you to do this for me. Ask yourself, do you like what's been going on for 20 years? If you don't, close your eyes and think for a minute that you wake up the day after the election because you went to bed too early and Donald Trump is the president. If that don't scare the bejesus out of you, I don't know what will. And if that doesn't get you on your feet and in the street, we will lose this election if we don't work our hearts out. This guy is dishonest. He's a hypocrite. He was, in fact, in behind a scrapyard in Pennsylvania pretending he was a steelworker. He put on his kid gloves while all of us put on work gloves. And I want to make sure that everyone knows he's no damn steelworker. Let me close with this. When I was a much younger person and my kids were younger, every time I went somewhere, I felt like I should bring them back a gift. My oldest daughter finally got the courage probably from her mom, to say, Dad, we've got more t-shirts than we can ever wear out. So the next time I went traveling, I went to San Francisco. And I figured I should bring something different home. So I went walking around, and down by the Golden Gate Bridge, I saw this gift shop. And I'm looking around, and there's this brass rat about that big. It's got two marbles that looks like marbles for eyes. And it's on a counter, and it's looking at me. And I go this way. The rat goes that way. I go this way. The rat's eyes go that way. I figured, That'd be pretty good. I could use that for a doorstop, and Carrie Ann would think we're watching her. So I said to the little guy in the little beard, I said, how much for the bronze rat? He said, $25, but the story's $300. I said, I don't want the story. I just want the rat. He said, okay, $25. I give him the money, I take the rat. I'm walking back to my hotel. As I'm going back, I hear, I look behind, there's like a dozen rats. I figured I must be in a bad area or something. I'm gonna walk faster. I look behind, there's like 100 rats. I figured, oh my God, I start to walk fast. Then I hear, I look behind, there's like 1,000 rats. I said, oh my God, they don't want me, they want this bronze rat. So I take the rat and I heave it as far as I can into the ocean. All the rats run off into the ocean. I figure I'm going back, see that old guy. I walk back, the old guy's there. I knew you'd be back. He says, you want the story, don't you? I said, hell no, you got a bronze Republican?